Bernie Sanders can't even tell you how much his own health care plan will cost. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez spoke at a Bernie Sanders rally and forgot one little thing. And President Trump's defense team rips the Democrats' case to shreds in the Senate impeachment trial. All that and more. I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-minute news hour.
And God bless the United States of America.
All right, friends, welcome to the show. Happy Monday. I hope you had a great weekend. Mine was busy. The weather was awesome on Saturday for block walking, going door to door, helping the campaign. So we just had a really good time. And now it's time for more politics. And I want to talk about Bernie Sanders because the last thing the Democrats want is for Bernie Sanders, a full-blown socialist, to be the nominee. Yet he's gaining more traction. Other people are slipping. Other people are falling away, getting out of the race. And Bernie Sanders keeps rising. And a new poll from the New York Times shows that Bernie Sanders has now gone to the top of the field in the Iowa caucus, which is just a week away. It's just February 3rd. That's when we'll start voting to see who the Democrat nominee is going to be to face President Trump. And here's a report from the Washington Examiner. Bernie Sanders is urging his supporters not to become complacent after a new poll finds him with a wide lead on the rest of the Democratic presidential pack a week out from the Iowa caucuses. The Vermont senator, who suffered a heart attack last year, is the number one pick for the 2020 Democratic nomination for a quarter of likely caucus goers, according to a New York Times Siena College poll released Saturday. That support marks a jump of 6 percentage points for him since the survey was last conducted in October. So Sanders is up 6% to 25. He's scoring 25% on the poll. And where the others stack up, here's more. Pete Buttigieg is Sanders' closest rival as the first choice for 18% of Iowa Democrats likely to caucus on February 3rd. The former mayor of South Bend, Indiana, is followed by former Vice President Joe Biden, 77, who was preferred candidate of 17% of those polled. Their share of the vote remains exactly the same compared to the fall survey. Meanwhile, Elizabeth Warren, Sanders' ideological ally, has hemorrhaged support, dropping from 22% in October to 15% as White House hopefuls make their closing arguments to Democrats in the first-in-the-nation state. So that's Iowa. Well, what comes next? What's after Iowa? New Hampshire. And Bernie Sanders is looking very strong in New Hampshire. Here's more. A quarter of likely Democrat primary voters in New Hampshire would cast their ballot on February 11th for Sanders, up 4 percentage points since October, a CNN poll conducted by the University of New Hampshire found. In the poll released Sunday, the socialist senator from Vermont, 78, has a 9 percentage point advantage on former Vice President Joe Biden's 16% support, as well as a sizable lead on former South Bend Mayor Pete Buttigieg at 15%, and Elizabeth Warren at 12%. His rise in support comes at the expense of Warren, who has dropped 6 percentage points since last fall. So, as Warren falls, Bernie Sanders rises. And the rest are they're not gaining any traction. And again, this has to have the Democrats freaked out because in this roaring economy, with Trump going strong, the last thing the Democrat establishment wants is Bernie Sanders, who's going to talk about socialism, Medicare for all, free college, taking away student loan debt, on and on and on, AOC's Green New Deal policies. Well, Bernie Sanders was on this weekend on CBS talking about some of these, and he was questioned. He was questioned actually about how some of his programs would lead to the loss of jobs. And here's how that went.
At the end of the day, we will create more jobs. Will there be some job loss? Yes, there will. We're going to create more jobs. We need more doctors, we need more nurses, we need more psychologists and psychiatrists to help us deal with the opioid epidemic. There will be a net plus of jobs.
Okay, just a quick word to Bernie Sanders. There's not going to be more doctors and nurses under his plan. Private practices right now are already refusing to see patients on Medicare because the reimbursements don't match what private insurance does. They can't afford to see Medicare patients. So if everything is Medicare, you're going to have practices, doctors and nurses, hospitals going out of business. There's not going to be more. There's going to be fewer. There's going to be less choice for the American people. So then he was asked this question.
You are a self-proclaimed socialist.
Democratic, put in there, please.
Thank you. Your agenda has promised free health care for everybody, free college tuition, and to pay off people's college loans. The price tag for that is estimated to be $60 trillion over 10 years, correct?
So O'Donnell asked him the price tag. The price tag for all this free stuff mentions that some estimates put it at $60 trillion. And here is Sanders' response.
Well, look, we have political opponents
You don't
who will
know.
come up.
You don't know how much your plan costs.
You don't know. Nobody knows. This is impossible.
You're
to
going to
predict.
propose a plan to the American people, and you're not going to tell them how much it costs?
Of course I will. You know exactly what health care costs will be, in the next 10 years if we do nothing. It will be a lot more expensive than a Medicare for all single-payer system.
So he doesn't even know. He can't even give an answer to his own plan. And this is the guy that's being supported by the left and is rising in the polls. And one of his biggest supporters, I want to transition over to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez because she's endorsed Bernie Sanders. She's a big supporter. She speaks at his rallies. Well, now that Sanders is stuck in Washington, D.C. for the Senate trial, Michael Moore and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez spoke this weekend at a Bernie Sanders rally, and they were the surrogates. They were speaking, and here's how Michael Moore's part went. It says, after several other guests spoke, Moore stepped up to the podium and began incessantly praising Sanders, an independent U.S. Senator from Vermont. Moore claimed that watching Sanders on the campaign trail has made him cry. It makes me cry, too. I'm so excited about our possibilities here, right here in Iowa, Moore said. Bernie was in Dubuque a couple weeks ago, and I scribbled down this down here. I came to tears watching him say this. Moore championed Sanders for his policies on climate change, the minimum wage, and his record on civil rights, before claiming Sanders is the only candidate who can defeat President Trump in November. So that's typical surrogate speaker stuff, right? I mean, he's praising Sanders. He's representing the guy that he's there for, right? That's why he's speaking. Well, then Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez came on the stage, and things didn't exactly go the way that it went for Michael Moore. And here's more. When Ocasio-Cortez got to the stage, however, she alluded to Sanders but didn't mention him by name once. Instead, she echoed Moore's call to take a risk and said voters shouldn't settle for the status quo. The New York Democrat also called for the abolition of two federal immigration agencies, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, and Customs and Border Protection, CBP. She also advocated for Medicare for all and suggested that political leaders craft the nation's environmental policy around indigenous wisdom. This is not just about how we win, it's about how we heal, Ocasio-Cortez added. From our bodies to this land, we are going to need entirely new paradigms of public policy in order to heal. Oh my gosh. If she's not out for herself, I have never seen a politician more focused on the me than her. She didn't even mention Bernie Sanders, who's running for president. She's out there representing him. Didn't even mention his name in her speech. So next, I want to give you an update on the Senate impeachment trial, because all week long, we heard from the Democrats laying out their bogus case, which is the same as what we all heard in the House. Well, now President Trump's team took their first steps back. They, on Saturday, got to speak for 2 hours, and in just those 2 hours, compared to 21 for the Democrats, they ripped the case to shreds. They just ripped it to shreds. Lindsey Graham was on Fox News talking about it, and here is part of what he said.
In 2 hours, the Senate, the president's defense team destroyed the narrative created in 21 hours regarding process and substance.
So Graham says they destroyed the process and the substance arguments. So first he addressed the process, a process that the Democrats rammed through the House in just 78 days, the full impeachment process in the House. And here's what Graham said about that.
71 of the 78 days, the president was denied the ability to call witnesses on his behalf, cross-examine witnesses, present evidence. So the Nixon impeachment lasted for years. He went to the Supreme Court. The Clinton investigation lasted for 4.5 years. So the defense was able to tell the Senate that all the due process given Nixon and Clinton did not exist with Trump.
So it's solid work from the Trump team. I mean, the Democrats are complaining now that this Senate trial is not fair, that they can't call witnesses, that there's no due process, even though they are doing the exact same process as what was done in the Clinton impeachment, where it was bipartisan, unanimous support for those rules. Now the Democrats say it's not fair, coming off a House hearing in which President Trump and the Republicans couldn't call witnesses. They didn't have due process, and it was just a farce. And now they're complaining. So then Lindsey Graham went on to the substance side, and here's what he said.
So the transcript was devastating to their case. Then the witnesses that they called in their case, they took snippets of hour-long testimony. And one thing for a young lawyer, if you want to use a piece of evidence from a deposition or a tape, make sure that other parts of the tape do not destroy the parts that you used.
Yeah.
So Graham ripped everything to shreds. He reiterated what the Trump team said, that President Zelensky of Ukraine has backed up what President Trump has said. And Michael Popora, one of the White House counsels, listed out 6 basic facts that they are pressing that the Democrats have no answer for. And I want to just put those up on the screen, and here they are. It says, the call transcript shows that the president did not condition either security assistance or a meeting on anything. Number 2, Zelensky and other Ukrainian officials have repeatedly said that there is no quid pro quo and no pressure on them to review anything. Number 3, Zelensky and other Ukrainian officials did not even know the security assistance was paused at the time of the call. Number 4, no witnesses testified that Trump himself said that there was any connection between an investigation and security assistance, a presidential meeting, or anything else. Number 5, U.S. security assistance was restarted on September 11th, 2019, and Trump met Zelensky on September 25th without the Ukrainian government announcing any investigation. And number 6, Trump has been a better friend and stronger supporter of Ukraine than his predecessor. So there it is. There's the case right there. And there's so much more we could get into, but that's kind of a summary of what the Trump defense team has said in their opening, and they'll be talking some more. So next, I want to finally wrap up with President Trump speaking at the March for Life, because that was an unprecedented. Presidents, and President Trump included, have issued taped speeches before, but to speak live at the march is something that's never been done before. And President Trump was asked about it. He described one of the reasons he did this is because religious liberty is under siege in this country, and he felt he needed to speak out. And here are some more comments.
So I saw them. They wanted me to make a tape that they play, and I've done it for 3 years now. And I said, I'm in Washington. Maybe I'll just, instead of making a tape, I'll go over it. Now, I didn't know it was going to be this big of a deal, but they have a lot of people out there. And it turned out to be very successful. Their most successful one by far.
So also, I just wanted to share a couple other little clips. The Daily Caller sent a reporter out there to cover the march and to just ask people, just if you could talk to President Trump, if you could pass along one thing to him, what would you say? What would it be? And here's just some of the responses.
You tell the president, if you give him one message.
I'd pass out if I could see him, dude. Oh my gosh.
We're asking people, if you could deliver one message to President Trump, what would it be?
Please do not compromise for the sake of politics this stand that you have on defending life.
Keep doing what you're doing, man. I think we're really on a great path.
So the Daily Caller video is just awesome, and I encourage you to watch it. It's just very moving. I felt it was very moving. And it just didn't matter if it's Republicans, Democrats, black, white. They interviewed a cross-section of people who are there for this one issue that goes above and beyond politics. It shouldn't be political to preserve innocent human life. And this one guy, I want to end with him because he just went off. He was so thankful that President Trump was there, but then listed a bunch of other issues, and here that is.
Thank you for reversing what Biden and Clinton did and releasing so many men and women from prison who was given unfair, lengthy prison sentences because of the so-called war on drugs. Thank you, President Trump, for giving money to the HBCUs as well. Thank you also for proving the media wrong that you're not racist. Thank you for being for the people.
So it's just awesome. Just please watch that video. I really, really enjoyed it. And I'm planning to go next year. So if we want to get a group together, We all go to the March for Life next year. I'm all in for that, so just let me know. But folks, that's our show for today. Please subscribe, and when you do, please hit that bell so you'll be notified, and we'll see you next time. I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-Minute News Hour. Okay, friends, just a little reminder before you go, and no, this does not count against my 13 minutes. Please hit the subscribe button below and tell your friends. And if you happen to miss our last show, you can check it out right here. And also for great conservative news and commentary, please check out GOPUSA.com. All right, folks, we'll see you on the next show. Have a great day.